Having me. I'm really excited to talk with you today.
Yeah, so tell us more. I guess let's start. Tell us about your background and how you even got into clinical research.
Sure. So basically, I was a health science major in college. And right about the time I graduated, so this was like 2001, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew it needed to be in the medical space. I am actually first generation Nigerian American. And so, like, in my culture, it's like you can be a doctor, a nurse, engineer, a lawyer, a pharmacist. There's all these sort of like approved careers that your parents can, like, be proud of you if you're in those careers. And so I knew I wanted to be in the medical space, but I didn't want to be a nurse, and I really didn't want to be a doctor. I knew from a young age that I really wanted a career where I could kind of, have the sort of balance that I wanted to, but also make that contribution to science. And so I live in Texas, and I went to college in Waco. And so when I graduated, I moved to Houston, Texas, because I knew that that was, the Texas Medical Center. Even back then, was worldwide, world renowned place. And I figured, if I'm going to make it anywhere in medicine, it's going to be there. And so I moved to Houston, and luckily I had an aunt that was a nurse who directed me to a job fair at Methodist Hospital here in Houston. And I ended up working for an investigator who was working in GU oncology. And so from there, that was kind of like my first introduction to research, basically by accident, like a lot of people, that I've met. And I just loved it. I mean, I was working with this, cutting edge science. We were working with kidney cancer patients. It was just really fulfilled that patient interaction because I was a study coordinator. So it fulfilled that patient interaction and really having that one-on-one, but really also like the innovative side and finding out, how science is evolving. And so I did that for a few years. And then from there, I kind of moved over to the administrative side. So I worked with the IRB, and then I moved on to being an auditor. Eventually worked with FDA and but on the institution side. So I worked as an IND analyst. And so I've kind of done like the spectrum of jobs in clinical research and been able to see it from multiple different perspectives, and have just learned such, such amazing things about the field. I've primarily been in oncology for most of my career, so that's sort of like my comfort zone. But, all along the way, I just felt so fortunate to have, found out about this field. And right now with COVID, it's kind of like top of mind. Everybody knows what a clinical trial is. But back then, it was literally like I would go back to my college, or I'd find high school students and I would try to mentor them and teach them about this really cool field that, you don't have to be a doctor, you don't have to be a nurse, but you can still make an impact. And so that's kind of sort of my story in a nutshell.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, you did work in so many different areas. So it gives you that experience to see where you want to focus on or what you wanted to do, or maybe change something and improve the different areas that you worked in. That's great. And so how did Hypothesis Haven come about?
Well, so it officially formed at the fall of 2019. But, as I kind of mentioned, it was always something that was sort of in my mind. How do I give back? How do I teach other people about this career? And so it really kind of started coming together because I have children. So I have 3 kids. Right now they're 11, 8, and 6. But, back when they were younger, that was sort of around the same time when STEM sort of became like this really big thing. STEM is like the most wonderful thing. It's going to make your kids like these amazing superhuman, And so my kids were aware that I worked with doctors and I worked in a hospital. I helped cancer patients, but they knew I wasn't a doctor. And so sometimes they would ask me, like, what do you do at work? And I'd be like, well, we're doing X, Y, Z. But I would always explain things to them like in very scientific terms, like, cancer mechanisms, different treatments that we were trying to give to patients. Like I would just literally, like my oldest was probably around 5, but I would just explain these things to her and she kind of soaked it up like a sponge and was so fascinated. And so from there, it kind of dawned on me. So jumping forward to 2019, that, a lot of times when we look at kids and we ask them like, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's like from 4 or 5 years old, they already kind of have an idea of the things that they want to do, but they're so limited. I mean, literally, my son, who is going into first grade next school year, by the time he graduates college, he's going to have so many more job options that don't even really exist today. So I felt like it was sort of a closed-minded thing to talk to kids in terms of like, what do you want to be when you grow up? wouldn't it be cool to kind of actually teach them the process of scientific thinking, the scientific method, and kind of like open that box up and teach them like, what problem do you want to solve? So Hypothesis Haven Science Club was born, and basically we're the first and only medical science program that uses clinical trials as a platform to teach children scientific thinking and get them ready for the job market of the future. And the way we do that is we have summer camps, we have after school programs, we have online workshops, and we're really just trying to show them like how the body's supposed to work, how it breaks down, and some of the innovative minds of the past and present that have come up with bright ideas that have, really impacted people's lives for the better.
Wow. And specifically for the clinical trials portion that you teach them, like what's an example of some of the things that you do?
Well, so we teach them about randomization, we teach them about control groups, and really we start out with just teaching them what a clinical trial is and why it's important to, continuously learn new knowledge. I mean, I think for kids, it's easy for them to just kind of see things and feel like, they've always been there, and actually adults too. We look at something like, a Tylenol, and we're like, okay, well, I have a headache, so I take a Tylenol. Well, back in the day when you had a headache, they might have tried to cut your skull open and, kind of like let some blood out because they felt like, maybe there was, a problem in there that could be solved that way. And so how did we get from point A, where we were doing, all of these really kind of off the wall things to people that we thought would work, until we actually began to study and learn and develop and come up with better and better treatments. So that's one of the big things that we really try to teach them, is just kind of that evolution of ideas, and how, even if you have an idea that seems a little off base and it doesn't work, you can continue to try it and test it. And then, it may not even be you. It may be that the work that you do inspires somebody else, and then they take it and they continue to build with it. And through all of that, we can kind of come up with new knowledge and bigger ideas. So but yeah, things like randomization, what an IRB is, what the FDA is, just those are some of the concepts that we really try to introduce them to, different types of research, what an investigator does, who's a scientist. So these are like all sorts of things that we sort of mix in. But then we also do get into a lot of just the medical science, like how is your body supposed to work? One of our things that we did this year, which was really cool, was we had, for American Heart Month, we taught a session where we taught the kids about bypass and graft surgery, the scientists that invented that, and, why that was important to have methods to try to treat heart disease. And so, it was really, really cool and hands-on and fun.
Well, that's pretty cool. I really like that, what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so I would assume this takes a team of people to put on these classes. So who do you work with that teaches the kids?
Yeah, definitely. So we use science major college students, and so we kind of call them our health science ambassadors. These are kids that, why I say kids, because, they're younger than me, but they're college students. They have a love of science, they have the technical knowledge. And so I think it's really cool when we go into elementary school that we have people that are sort of closer in age to the students, so they can kind of look and see, okay, that looks like my aunt or my uncle, or, I can be that one day. They're in college, maybe I can go to college. So those are our health science ambassadors. They teach all of our classes. And we also have some administrative staff. I mean, at first it was just me and, sometimes my kids would come in the classes with me, and they still do in the online classes. It'll just be me and one of my kids that kind of match the age group of who we're teaching. And we just hop on there. But as it's grown, we've added right now we have 3 staff members and 3 volunteers. Then we sometimes use interns that really can connect with the kids. And it's really amazing, because we actually just finished for the school year, and literally the kids were telling our staff, well, are y'all coming back next year? Like, we don't want y'all to leave. We're gonna, it's just so amazing when you impact. And I think even my instructors feel it too.
Yeah. And how do you feel like now the kids, being exposed to this, even probably the teachers and the parents, I mean, how did they respond? Or was everybody learning, I assume, at the same time, not just the kids, right?
Yeah, and that's a cool thing about it too, especially with clinical trials. I mean, I think that we kind of take it for granted. Like literally when the company was started, before I could even get to like what it is we're trying to teach, I would have to like give like a whole kind of like disclaimer on clinical trials. Like, okay, if you walk into the CVS and you see the drugs on the shelf, before they could be on the shelf, they had to be tested in a lab, and then they were tested on animals, and they were tested on people. I had to go into this whole thing. And so now people kind of have like a baseline knowledge of what a clinical trial is. And so through our classes, as we teach the kids, especially when it was online and parents were actually like last summer, when the school shut down, we really kind of switched to an online model, even though that wasn't something we had initially planned. Parents were in the room and they could actually kind of hear what we were doing. And so we had a lot of people like, who were in the medical field say, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I'm so glad that my kid is getting exposed to this. There's no other really STEM classes that teach that. I mean, it's usually like slime or, robotics and things like that, which are fun, but, it's not really like the real world science that, all of us are exposed to. But it's been really great to get that feedback from, especially people who are in the medical field or in the research field, that, their kid has something that can show what it is that they're doing at work. So that's really, really been awesome. But one of the things that we're actually starting now, and we actually kicked off with Clinical Trials Day, was having investigators post their research studies on our site, especially research studies that involve children. So that way we can start to really kind of pull the families and the children into actually being research participants, instead of just learning about how research works, they actually get to take part in research. So that's been really, really cool. We call it Clinical Trials for Kids. So that's something that we're, really trying to push now. And we've had a couple of people actually sign up already. So it's been cool.
Yeah, I think that's amazing because you guys are teaching these young kids at a younger age. And, we that's part of our mission, to educate and get more people involved into clinical research. But we were actually starting from like the junior college level, going, hopefully getting into high school. So going the other way, but it's getting started even earlier. Hopefully they continue on this path and they do want to do something in clinical research in the future. So that's amazing. Thank you for all that work you guys are doing.
It's really neat. And also, the thing about it too is, even though we're using medical science as the platform, we really emphasize that like the scientific method itself is something that if you follow it, it really can be transferred to a number of different industries. So like, even if these kids decide that, okay, science is not for me, like we've literally taught them how to think through a process, how to like, change something that's not working, how to tweak, little bits here or adjust little bits there. And so we really kind of see it as, this is the way that we're teaching it to you, because this is like, what we're interested in, but you can really kind of take these skills, and solve problems, in a lot of different areas. So that's like a really big part of it as well.
That's great. And then in the schools in your community where you're at, are you in a lot of the elementary schools already, or are you slowly getting into all of them?
So we are slowly getting into it. So this company launched in the fall of 2019, right? And so that first semester of 2020, that was going to be our moment. And then everything like shut down. So we're like, oh man. And so then we kind of quickly switched to online. But we're in Texas. And so starting as early as this year, a lot of campuses, have been back in person. And actually my kids have been back in person since the fall. But in terms of having like outside vendors come in, schools are slowly getting more comfortable with bringing people in. We still do offer services online, but, if we can get in person into a school, that's definitely something that, our staff is vaccinated. They still wear their masks. And so, we have been able to get into a couple of schools, and we have even more signed up for in the fall. So that's been really cool and exciting to see it kind of start get back to normal.
Yeah, that's great. I'm sure it'll continue to grow. So yeah, that's great.
Bridget, for example, if somebody wants to register one of their kids in your program, what they need to do?
Well, sure. They can visit our website, which I can provide that link to you. But basically, we partner with existing summer camps, existing schools, and then we are mobile. So we come over to their location and then we provide our services. So if you go up to our website, you can see the places that we're already partnered with. Like, for example, we have 2 summer camps coming up that we're going to be a part of. So people can sign up there. Several times a year, we also have events for the community that are just open to anybody who wants to join. Our last one was online, but we're really hoping that this year we can have, go back to having in-person sessions like we did the very first year in 2020. We actually had one February 2020, and then like the shutdowns happened like the last month. So we do want to get back to kind of having in-person sessions just for the community. or they can sign up for their school. If people have a camp that their kids been a part of that they think this would be a great addition to, we welcome people to, kind of let us know. And we also provide online options so that we can, reach further than the Houston area. I mean, we eventually want to span the whole United States and, even further.
That was my next question. If it was only for Texas or if it was available for everybody else in the United States,
Yeah,
because I think
definitely,
it's very
definitely.
nice. It's
Yeah, we have
absolutely
plans.
wonderful.
I
Like,
have two questions. So one, what is your dream outcome? I guess if you only had one outcome at the end of your career that would stem from this organization, and then I'll ask my second one. But this one's deep. This one's deep, Bridget.
It is. Honestly, I think that a lot of times when we deal with children, as adults, we can get kind of jaded, we're just going to work, we're doing X, Y, Z, but like in children, you really have, the future. I mean, my goal would be that we are the ones who train the next Carlos Finlay or the next Kizmikia Corbett. Like when they grow up, they can be like, I was a part of this program when I was in elementary school, and, now I've found the cure for AIDS or found the cure for cancer. Like that would be like the bomb.
Like Jennifer Doudna, Emmanuel Charpentier.
Exactly.
That'd be cool. I like that. And number two, kind of related to that, have you reached out to any CROs or sponsors to get in early? You know how like in basketball, they start the kids young, like they start with AAU, like 9, 10, 11. I see this as like a science AAU maybe. And it hasn't been done. So have you reached out to any CROs or sponsors to see if they're interested in getting early access to potential future employers? There's a huge shortage in research. I guess we'll talk about that in my interview, but I just wanted to get your take on that. Have you tried?
There definitely is. Yeah, we've tried. I mean, and that's one of the things that is really a part of our plan. I mean, we see this not only just as kind of like, a fun little, after school program. Like we literally see this as something that has far-reaching implications and that can provide value to, the, pharma industry and biotech industry. I mean, a lot of our lessons are actually patterned after, existing things, like I was talking about earlier, like cardiac stents, we learned about angiography. So my dream would really be able to, come talk to some of these device companies or drug companies and really have them come in and teach kids what it is that they're doing, have their scientists come and work with our students and make, whatever of their technology available that they can, so that we can actually kind of see what's really being developed now. So that is definitely something that we are interested in. And we've reached out a little bit just kind of within the Houston area. I do a lot of talking to college students, and I think that people are so primed to seeing college and high school students, like you're saying, as the audience that they need to work with. But, it really needs to start a lot earlier than that to plant that seed and really let kids know, so that the next generation of kids is not just following into this by accident, like we all, we're fortunate to do, but they actually know about it from young. And like you were saying with sports, like they start them young, like the soccer league, they kids at like 8, 9,
they
10,
get sponsors, Nike, Jordan brand, Reebok, Adidas, all get in there. They try to get these kids early. Like, they know that it's going to be 10,000 kids in AAU across the country, but from that, maybe 3 are going to be NBA superstars, and they all want to get that, have that relationship. I think in science, it's going to be less competitive than that, and it's more practical for CRO to get a CRA, right, as an example. So just something I think about. I think this is a good initiative, great initiative, actually.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I don't really have a question. It's more a statement. I think it's great, at least from your explanation of your program, that it sounds like you're teaching critical thinking, and that's sorely lacking in our education system today. So it's great that you're teaching critical thinking. Yeah,
they're actually trying to get away from that. They're trying to get away from that.
I know they are, and that's just awful. It's awful.
I don't want to get political, but like I'll ask you what you feel about here in California. I think it's Washington. I don't know where. They want to get rid of what is it, STEM? They want to get rid of like AP science because like they're saying it's inequality. Like I think it's throwing out the baby with the bathwater, in my opinion. What is your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, one of the things that we've noticed on the district approach, like science is maybe like once or twice a week. It's not taught every week it was when we were young. And so, we really try to position our program as something that, really can kind of fill that gap. I mean, of course, there's never enough hours in the day anyway, but then when you have to focus on, teaching towards like certain standards or certain testing things that, the kids are going to be tested on, have to do well, certain things kind of get pushed to the side, and science is usually one of the first one along with the arts. And so, we really feel like our program is something that eventually, as we grow and it takes different formats, it can be a standalone curriculum that even if we can't reach, physically to come out to a school, they can, use our curriculum to supplement whatever they're teaching in the schools. But I mean, I think science is so important, and it just, I mean, I was shocked to find out that like schools like right in the district, like where my kids go to school, like certain schools, and it's always usually, the schools where the Black or the brown kids are, that, usually under-resourced, and really kind of, you see a lot of that. Science is not even something that, they have access to, and that's a real shame.
Yeah, well, we need more people like you, more, we're trying, thanks to Judy and Monica here, well, actually across the country, but we're starting locally to reach out to it started with the colleges, but we can go to high school too, and reach out and just kind of plant the seeds. Hey, this is clinical research. This is how science is.
Yeah.
This is how science develops. So I think it's very important. I think people need to do that, and we need organizations like yours to exist and to be successful.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with Dan.
Yeah,
I think,
thank you. I definitely appreciate,
Yeah, I think there's so many positions in like research in the medical field that we need to fill, but we're not getting, as you had mentioned, to the younger kids, educating them so they can take this path and want to go into those fields. So yeah, we need more things like this. I'm so happy that, I ran into your organization and we can like share this with the community. And I hope we can see more of this in other cities outside of Texas. Hopefully it comes to my city in San Diego, because we don't have anything like this.
Definitely. Yeah, we're definitely looking to reach out and collaborate with people all over the country, and really kind of, share our methods with them, and really kind of spread out. I mean, this is something that I live in Texas, and Texas Medical Center Houston was a natural progression and natural home for it. But it's something that I can see being, helpful to children all over. I mean, when we were online last summer, we had kids as far as like Brazil and Israel in some of our sessions. Like, it was just so amazing, and it's so universal. I mean, kids are already fascinated with how their bodies work and so we're just bringing that extra piece to show them like, hey, you actually could figure out, how to fix, one of the problems that's facing the world. And so, we definitely are looking to collaborate with people all over the place. So
that's awesome. Well, we definitely got to do a part 2. You're invited anytime to come on Latinos in Clinical Research and share your story on our live Zooms. So just, if you can, just subscribe to our website so you get notified of when we do every month we do a Zoom. So whenever you can, just jump on. Don't be shy to introduce yourself there, and then we can probably get more people interested. I know Monica's got some relatives in Houston. She's thinking, I could tell, she's thinking of signing them up right now. I can tell.
And I'm actually, awesome. When you were talking, to my mind crossed a lot of ideas that I would love to share with you.
Definitely. Yeah, that would be awesome. And I know that, Judy, you're like in the Valley area, and that's an area where, I mean, because we also tailor classes. So like last summer we did for last summer, not Black History Month in February, but we did one like African-American pioneers of medical science. And, there's just so many different areas and so many people to spotlight, a lot of people that fly under the radar that have really done amazing things. And so I really want kids to see themselves in that, and to see that science is not something that was just all discovered like hundreds of years ago in Europe. Like, it's, being discovered every day, even today, by people who look just like them. So that's like what it's all about, just to inspire, that next generation of scientists.
Yes, I agree. I think that's actually how I reached out to your organization. I was wondering, why we don't have something like this in Imperial County. So I live in San Diego County, but I work in Imperial County. So it's 2 different communities. But even San Diego County, I have 2 kids also, 4-year-old and 6-year-old. I was like, I would totally sign them up for this, but we don't have nothing in San Diego like this. So I think that's why I initially reached out to see if you did have something in San Diego that I can sign them up, or virtually. And then I found out a lot more about your organization. That was like, you have to come on, Latinos in Clinical Research.
We definitely need more of this. There's a few organizations like this in LA and New York, but it's like has to be like the huge cities for and it's super expensive. But yeah, we definitely need more of this in our lives across the country, and with an emphasis on clinical research. Those other places don't do emphasis on clinical research. It's just science. This is one step further and addressing an industry need. So definitely got to do a part 2. Everybody also check out, we're going to have links to hypothesishaven.com underneath this YouTube channel and in the podcast in the show notes. And then also I'm going to interview Bridget in about 10 minutes on my channel regarding her career, more in depth about her career, so we can get to see kind of where she started and all that kind of stuff. So thank you very much, Judy, for setting this up, and Bridget for coming on.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. I appreciate it. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you.
Thank
Talk
you.
to you all later. Bye-bye.